To begin, I'm going to use my pencil and a ruler. I have a circle piece of cardboard, pencil, ruler. For this project, I'm also going to use some markers and a sharpie, a small flat paintbrush, and a little cup of water. I'm going to begin by trying to find about the middle of my circle, and I'm going to make a dot. And then I'm going to start by making lots and lots of lines, diameters, all the way around my circle. And these are going to be guidelines later for my buildings. So I want to make sure that every single line that I'm making passes through that center dot that I made. So I'm just really lightly with my pencil going through and making these lines. So the dot in the middle is going to be our vanishing point, and all of these lines are going to be going towards the vanishing point. Now, I accidentally made a line that was not going across the circle or the vanishing point, and so I'm erasing it because every single line needs to go through it. So think of this as maybe a pie or a pizza, and it has to have all of the slices going through the middle. I'm making a lot of them so that they will help guide me in my building placement and windows and doors as well. Once I have all of my light pencil lines, I'm using a fine point Sharpie and my ruler, and I'm making a horizontal line for the top of my first building, and then the sides of my building have to follow one of the lines that I made so that they go towards the vanishing point. I'm going to do the same thing for my next building, try to make a horizontal line. Maybe I'll even make a second one to add a little bit of a different element to the top of my building. And then I'm making sure that the sides match up to my vanishing point. I'm trying to vary the size and shape of my buildings so that some are taller, some are wider, and I'm even starting to add in some of the basic elements like doors. I'm using the lines that are already there in pencil. They kind of give me an idea of where or how wide my buildings could possibly be. I'm also adding different elements to the top of my buildings just to give variety. Notice there's a little space between some of my buildings too. I'll be adding some trees there later. So I'm going around and adding lots of little details to each of my buildings. I do want to have close to 10 or so different buildings, definitely more than 6, because we have 6 colors that we want to use when making this color wheel. These cityscapes will not only be for one point perspective, but they'll also be showing us the colors in the color wheel. You can add elements like wires at the very top of your buildings, all kinds of different things. We just have to make sure that the top lines are horizontal to the vanishing point, and then all of the vertical lines have to go towards the vanishing point. And make sure that you use your ruler so that your lines are nice and straight. Notice I left a space there as well. So now I'm going to go ahead and just add some trees just to break up the buildings a little bit with some greenery. You can really get creative with what you do, what kind of elements you add. You could add things like towers, like the Eiffel Tower, or certain buildings that you've seen, like the Needle from Seattle, or whatever. They don't all have to be rectangular, but try to keep in mind the vanishing point as you work to add buildings to the picture. Now I'm going in and adding some of the detail elements to my picture. I'm making sure that any of my horizontal lines are parallel and they all are horizontal to the vanishing point in the middle. And then my vertical lines always have to match up to my vanishing point. So I'm using my ruler to always make sure that it's passing through that center point. I'm trying to come up with different architectural elements or just a variety of window placement in each of my buildings. You could also add signs or text to the sides of the buildings. If there's a specific store that you'd like to include in your city or restaurant. I'm just keeping mine pretty generic, but I do want to add some different elements to each of my buildings. Most will have doors, most will have windows, some will have fancier elements than others. Here you can see I have added all the details, and now I am erasing the pencil lines, especially in the middle of my picture. Now is the fun part. We're going to add some color, and I'm basically going to go through the color wheel, and I'm going to start with red and decide which building I want to add the red to. I'm using my marker to go just on the outside edges of my red building, and you have to kind of plan ahead of time which or how many you're going to have of each color. So I have enough buildings that I can have 2 red ones. And then I'm going to use my plain water to kind of spread the marker around. So it's kind of almost like a watercolor paint. So I'm just going through and kind of scrubbing at my red marker lines. And then I'm adding a little bit of water to make them painted. I'm going to go ahead and color in my door so that it's darker, but I still will go over it with the water just to make sure it's nice and smooth. And then now I'm going to go to my next section. Now if you have more than 6 buildings, you can include some of the colors that come between the colors on the color wheel. For example, I should have red and then orange, but I have extra buildings, so this building here is actually going to be red-orange. So I'm using both the red marker and the orange marker to add details to this building so that it can be a little mixture of the two. Make sure that when you do this, you're only mixing the two that would be on either side of the building in the color wheel. So if that's red-orange, then this one would be the actual orange building. It wouldn't work to do like red mixed with blue, like a purple there, because that would be out of order. So we want to make sure that we stay in the order of the color wheel: the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. So this building, I'm just adding the orange paint by using the marker and then adding water. I'm trying to have some things a little bit darker, some things a little bit lighter. Another thing you can do is add some architectural elements like bricks. So I'm going in with my marker and just drawing some little lines to make it look like this building has bricks. You can also add stones or stripes or certain patterns to the side of buildings, like blocks, to make it look like it's an actual building. So you can see now that I've added a lot of color to each of the buildings. I've gone all the way around the color wheel, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and I've even added some of the colors in between, like yellow, green, or green, blue. Now I am looking at doing the sky, and I've decided that I want it to be dark, kind of like night, so I'm just going in with my black and kind of outlining some of the tops of the buildings with my black marker. And I'm not being too careful with going right by the lines because the water will kind of help the marker spread to those areas. I'm going to go ahead and take my paintbrush, get it wet with the water, and spread the black out. Because black is actually made by using colors, the water will kind of bring some of those colors out, and it doesn't actually appear to be a true black, but kind of a dark greenish color, almost blue-green. I'm going to use that color to fill up my sky, and then we'll also be adding some details to the windows and the doors to finish off my project. You can decide too if you want all of the windows to be the same. I think I'm going to go with yellow for all of my windows. Some of my doors I think will just be solid colors of the buildings, kind of like my red door for my red building. I'm going to really try to stick with the color scheme of each building and not add a variety of colors, because we do want this overall to look like a color wheel. Here you can see I've added yellow to my windows, my sky is done, I've added the greenery to the trees, and now I've got my entire project painted in.